Welcome. Okay, so for number 4, it looked a little crazy. Actually, this is an easier version of the homework we've been doing all unit long. The reason is you can think of this as kind of like a multiple choice question. When I give you, usually on the homework, when I give you 4x squared minus 9 equals 0, I don't give you answer choices to choose from. You actually work it out and solve this all by yourself, which is what makes this easier, because now you can tell whether you're right or wrong because your answer choice must be one of these 4. So do this problem the way you always do it. Okay, go ahead and solve this somewhere else, show the work. So I have 4x squared minus 9 equals 0. Think about all the ways that we have to factor. When we only have 2 terms, the first thing we check is GCF. Well, we check GCF always first, like always, like skull always. So let's see, can I pull out anything from 4 and 9? Nope. Can I pull out any x's? Nope. So then my second option when I have 2 terms is difference of squares. This is a difference of squares. The way that works is you go immediately into parentheses. You're going to take the square root of the first term, which is 2x. You're going to take the square root of the second term, which is 3. And then you're going to flip the signs. 2x plus 3, 2x minus 3 equals 0. Now you're just going to solve because we need to get our final answer. So 2x plus 3 equals 0, and 2x minus 3 equals 0. Let's solve for x. So I get x equals negative 3 halves. And over here, when I add 3 to both sides, remember our trick is flip the sign. That's how I get the positive 3. And then I divide by 2, I get x equals positive 3 over 2. So my answers are the plus and minus version. So I'm going to put x's in their corresponding. This is basically I'm saying this one and this one. Okay, that's all that this chart is letting you do. It's letting you put x's in the right spots. All right, let's do the second one. So 2x squared minus 2x minus 4 equals 0. Now, no matter how many terms I have, what do I always do first? I see if I can pull out a greatest common factor. In this case, these are all even numbers, and I can factor to 2. I'm left with x squared minus x minus 2 equal to 0. Now, I can ignore that 2 because if I divide both sides by it, it disappears. Nothing changes. So I'm just going to focus on x squared minus x minus 2 equals 0. When I have 3 terms and there is no number, there is no coefficient out in front of the x squared, or basically when that number is just 1, I can always use my magic x shortcut. So I need 2 numbers that multiply to negative 2 and add up to the middle guy, which is negative 1. Okay, those 2 numbers will be, let's think. Our options are 2 and 1. Which one has to be negative? Will have to be the 2 would have to be negative. So the shortcut works like this. You find those 2 numbers and you immediately plug them in. It's going to be x minus 2 and then x. Now this goes here. So my minus 2 went here. My positive 1 goes there. But that's not our answer. We have to flip the sign because we have to set it equal to 0 and solve. So let's solve. I get x equals positive 2 and x equals negative 1. Positive 2, negative 1. Nice. Okay, last problem. We'll do it the same way. 2x squared minus x equals 6. 2x squared minus x equals 6. Well, before I start thinking about what methods I have, I need to always get all terms to the same side and set it equal to 0 because that's the only way that I can factor and solve. So I'm going to move this 6 to the other side. The only way I can do that is by subtracting or adding, and in this case I have to subtract. So I get 2x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. Okay, now let's think. GCF, we always check it first. Since there's a 1 here, I can't pull anything out. So that's out of the running. Next I have magic x since there are 3 terms. But notice there is a number out in front, so I can't use a shortcut. I have to do it by grouping. That's the long way. So let's use our magic x. we need two numbers that multiply to negative 12. That's 2 times negative 6. And they have to add up to negative 1. So those numbers are going to be negative 4, positive 3. So you should have considered 6 and 2, 1 and 12, 3 and 4. The only ones that will add up to 1 in some way, or subtract rather, are 3 and 4. So remember, the way that the long way works is you have to split the middle term into those numbers that you got. So this is going to have an x next to it. This is going to have an x next to it. We only do this when doing the long way. So let's rewrite it. 2x squared minus 4x. Now I'm over here. Plus 3x minus 6, 0. We're going to factor by grouping. So group the first two terms. And now you got to ask yourself, what can we're going to hide this. Okay, I don't want you looking at that right now. Just focus here. What can I factor out from 2x squared minus 4x? Okay, well, that's a 2, and you can always pull out an x. Since it's always x squared and x, you can always pull out an x. And I'll be left with x minus 2. Now, if this is x minus 2, immediately you know this one's going to be x minus 2. But you have to figure out what's this invisible mystery number that would really distribute in, if I have an x, I need it to give me a plus 3x. So that's going to be plus 3. That's the missing number. The sign needs to go right here. Okay, at this step, you're going to take the guy that you have in common, which is x minus 2, pull him out. And once he's gone, because you've already pulled him out, he's right here. Now you just put in the other parentheses the leftovers, which are 2x plus 3. Okay, now we're going to solve like always. So set x minus 2 equal to 0. Set 2x plus 3 equal to 0. You're going to get your answers. X equals 2 and x equals negative 3 halves. So positive 2, negative 3 halves. Positive 2, negative 3 halves. There you go. So see if you can do it, these ones yourself. I want you to try the same way. And remember, on a test, you'll be given a chart to mark in the boxes, but you should practice without that chart. So give these three a shot, pause the video here, and then check your solutions for each one. So the first one, we have to use magic x. There's nothing I can factor out from 2, 5, and 3. So I'm just going to have to use magic x long way right away. I need two numbers that multiply to 6, add to negative 5. Okay, these are my options. Now they need to multiply to a positive 6. So they're either both positive or they're both negative. So all of these will work to multiply to positive 6, but they have to add up to a negative number. These add up to positive 5. These add up to positive 7. So it's one of these two. Now these will combine to negative 7, so I'm left with minus 2, minus 3. Since it's the long way, I'm going to remember that I'm really splitting my middle term. So put x's here to remind yourself. That's 2x squared minus 2x minus 3x plus 3 equals 0. Okay, now focus here. What can you factor out? You'll take out a 2 and also an x. We're left with x minus 1. So immediately this is x minus 1. Now what's that mystery number? If it distributes into x, so what times x is going to give me minus 3x? The number is minus 3. So I've got x minus 1 because I take out the common guy. And the leftovers, I stick them together in a second parentheses. Your answers, you should have got as your answers x equals positive 1 and x equals 3 divided by 2. For the second one, I have 4x squared minus x equals 0. So always, always, always you check GCF first. Actually, if you don't check GCF first this time, you would have been very, very confused because the only way that you can do this is through GCF. So I can pull out an x. I can't pull out a number, but I can pull out an x. Then I'm left with 4x minus 1. And now I'm already in factored form. There's nothing left to do. So set each factor equal to 0. Remember, this x all by itself out here, it is a factor. It's just a piece that multiplies. So you have to set that equal to 0. You can't ignore it. So if x equals 0, that's already solved. That is one of my answers. The other answer is going to be x equals 1 over 4. Okay. Good job if you got it right. Last one. 49x squared equals 100. Okay. 49x squared equals 100. Well, we've talked about this before. We can't do anything until everything is on the same side, set equal to 0. So I have to use addition or subtraction to move things around. I want to move this 100 to that side, so I'm going to minus the 100. Just get 49x squared minus 100 equals 0. And now let's think. GCF, is there anything I can pull out? This is an odd number, this is an even number. And no, there isn't anything that goes into both. So that's out of the running. I have 2 terms. So I'm not going to use magic x. That's for 3 terms. I need to use difference of squares. So remember, difference of squares works like this. Take the square root of the first term. Take the square root of the second term. And you're going to put plus and minus. So our answers are going to be, set each term equal to 0. I get x equals negative 10 over 7 and x equals positive 10 over 7. I skipped some steps, but you can fill in the rest.